Hello YouTube, this is Mars. Welcome back to the Conan Exiles PvP build video. Today I'm bringing you 3 builds that I made for the Warmaker patch. Starting with the Rotator. My primary weapon is always the spear. Any spear will usually do for me, but for this build specifically I'm using the Black Dragon Pike. Secondary is either a Warhammer or a Greatsword for this setup. This is, I didn't mention this, but this is a dueling setup that I like to use. My weapon of choice for this setup currently is the Annihilator. The Annihilator is one of the best greatswords in game currently, depending on how much armor value your opponent is using. If your opponent is using an armor value less than 255, anything the sword of the Adventurer will be a better option. Anything above that, the Annihilator is the best option. My potion of choice for removing poisons is the Set Antidote because it is much lighter weight and it's better than the Violet Curative, specifically because of the fact that it gives you alcohol poisoning now and that kills your stamina in a serious fight. I prefer to use the Hearty Stew, the Herbal Tea as a curative. I like to also use Aloe Soup because it is most benefited with having Gluttonous Gains or Tier 4 Vitality. I also like to use a ranged weapon such as a bow. Any bow usually does it for me, but for a dueling build in a private server, I prefer the Red Mother's Reach, and I prefer to use set arrows in a dueling situation, not gas or acidic arrows because those are usually frowned upon, especially in a tournament situation as well. I'm liking throwing axes this patch. Throwing axes are extremely effective, especially if you get close to someone that is trying to run away from you. Spamming these will always do the trick in trying to finish someone off. These are like my favorite things to finish someone off nowadays, especially if I can get my hands on some or make any kind. Now these are the best ones in game. I can't remember exactly how you get them, but I like them. They do the most amount of damage even though they lack armor penetration. Now, moving on to gear, or to the consumables list. So the Scorpion Queen and the Reaper Poison. Scorpion Queen is the best poison you can possibly use, but either or kind of works for me. I still have the daggers here, poison. Crimson Lotus as well for buffs. I have the Yogite Chogan's Chosen Mask and a Heart of the Hero. The Yogite Chosen Mask is a sandstorm mask and a gas mask, so this is always nice to have. It's a bit stronger than the standard sandstorm and gas mask you get just from unlocking it at level 30. You can get this in the Unnamed City if you're lucky and if you farm for it. It kind of drops randomly. The Heart of the Hero, you can farm these in Unnamed City since you tend to run into getting corruption, especially against the Moralden and other corrupted weapons that were added in the Warmaker patch. You kind of want to have a nice amount of these on you, so I suggest farming these in official and in boosted. My usual weapons of choice for this setup is a axe, a greatsword, a warhammer, and sometimes a longsword. Longsword is very situational. My typical war paints is strength and vitality. That's usually what I run for my consumables. Going into gear, the helmet is optional. I prefer to run the Ravager helmet specifically for the style points when it comes to strength. The best possible strength helm you can get is the Helm of the Brute. There's another light strength helm if you can get it. It just doesn't have as much armor. I prefer to have the Helm of the Brute specifically because it gives me one more point in strength. I run the Flawless Zingarian Freebooter chest and gloves and 2-piece Vermin hide. Here are my stats. So I have 37 into strength, 1 point into agility, 37 into vitality, 8 points in the accuracy, 20 points into grit, and 10 points in encumbrance. So with the 2-piece Vermin hide, it gives you an additional 2-piece to all stats, and the Zingarian Freebooter gives you vitality specifically, and the helmet gives you strength. Now, if you wanted to get Gluttonous Gains to increase the amount of healing you would get, all you need to do is switch to a Vitality War Paint and use the Helm of Sobek. Now, this setup might be slightly better than the increased strength setup, specifically since the Helm of Sobek offers more protection than any other setup. Well, any other helmet in game currently right now, I believe, for medium armor. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure the Sobek helm is a top tier choice. So it puts you at an additional 13 points of the change to Warpaint and the helmet. Now, you could get more armor if you take those points out of accuracy and put them into agility. It'd be 8 points, but since agility got buffed in the last patch, it would increase your armor by 32 points, so that would put you at 376 armor. So yeah, that would put you at 376 armor, so you'd have more protection in a dueling situation. So that is the first build. Moving on to the second one. So this is the commander build. This is an up-in-your-face brawler build that focuses on base defense as well as group play and general PvP. This is one of my all-around new favorite builds, and this is what I'm using currently. So let's get straight into the rotator first and then gear. So this build has some restrictions. This is an agility-focused medium build, so you have to have the vaulting pole. Vaulting pole is required. You can't do the build without the vaulting pole. Secondary weapon is greatsword and warhammer. Any greatsword really do the job, and I'll talk about the specific warhammer that I prefer to use. I prefer to have a bow with this build, specifically for adding gas or using set arrows or any other general arrows, and obviously the thorn axes because they're good at executing. Now, going into gear, I use the Helm of the Brute, the Commander's Chestplate, and the Gauntlets, Tacit, and Boots of Sobek. This is the easier setup to get, just because you can farm it without having to craft anything. You can use Aquilonian with this setup for these 3 pieces, or for the whole set until you get everything else you need. It's just easier to get to your tier 4 perks with this setup this way. It's easier without having to spend too many points. Now going into attributes, I have 31 into strength, 32 in agility, and 28 into vitality, nothing in accuracy, 20 points in a grid, and 10 in encumbrance. Now, if you had the Aquilonian setup, you'd have to change the chest plate around, or you'd have to leave your strength as is, because you wouldn't have the Helm of the Brute, unless you did have the Helm of the Brute, or you wanted to use a different type of helmet, but you'd be running low on points, and you'd probably have to pull from your points in grit, or from points in encumbrance, to make up for those lack of points. Now, I prefer Sobek specifically for its increased armor. It's one of the better medium. It's one of the best medium armor sets in the game currently because it has so much armor and its stats. Now, for mods, I prefer to use the the weight reduction kits to reduce the weight on the armor because it weighs so much. The armor of Sobek is kind of heavy, so I prefer to reduce the armor by quite a bit. Now, you can use the regular chest plate, but it only gives you 1 point into vitality instead of 2 points, which allows you to play with it a bit more. Now, my warhammer of choice is the Maelstrom, specifically because it gives you 5 points into strength and 5 points into vitality. Last but certainly not least, I bring you the Reaper Perfected, a raiding build dedicated to my man, the Reaper of Chess. Shout out to you, Reaper. So starting out with the primary weapon, definitely a spear. Any spear will do. Black Dragon Pike is the best. Secondary weapon, Warhammer. You can't do this build without the Worldbreaker though. It's not the Reaper Perfected if you're not using the Worldbreaker. Reaper made that very clear. Gotta have throwing axes because of the execution. And my preferred weapon of choice as a ranged weapon is the Reach of the Red Mother. Now, this build, you have the options to go tier 5 strength or tier 5 vitality or close to both. Specifically, if it's Reaper, he's probably going to go gluttonous gains. He's most likely always going to go gluttonous gains because tier 4 strength is enough. You don't really need tier 5. Now, it's not a Reaper build unless you carry white dye with you and you have to have your large chests. But for me, I have to have the, it doesn't really matter. I don't care. You have to have large chests though, because he loves to have large chests because he can't carry everything. Now the war paints, for this build, I prefer to go vitality just because you get so much strength in your attributes already, so it's a better option. So the gear, we have the Helm of the Brute, the War Dancer's chest, and the Flawless Defari bracers, skirt, and greaves. You have the option of using the chest if you don't have the War Dancer's chest that you can get from the Unnamed City, as well as the Helm of the Brute. You can still get any type of medium helm to manage that if you're going the strength route. It's just It's just that simple. Just if you don't have those two, just get the Defari chest and any type of medium helm. Now, if you want to go the vitality route, you use the Helm of Sobek and you allocate points towards vitality rather than strength. So here are the stats one more time: 36 strength, 8 points into agility, 37 points into vitality, no points into accuracy, 20 points into grit, and 13 into encumbrance. So this was pretty much it. I want to say thanks again for watching and have a great day. If you're looking for more Conan content, always subscribe and like the videos. Always come back to the channel. I'll always have something for you. I want to say thanks again for watching and keep slaying, guys. Keep slaying.